Backed by popular demand, the 2019 Bowl Picks, brought to you by the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College, starring the Provost in Southeastern Ohio and Jonathan Sachs from Liaison Bookings in San Francisco. Please stay tuned. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Richard Sachs in Rio Grande, Ohio. And he is? And we are here to do the 2019 Bowl Picks, brought to you by University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College. Now our fourth year of doing Bowl Picks, second year for the Father-Son Bowl Picks. Welcome, John. Let's talk about the first Bowl Pick. December 20th, Makers wanted Bahamas Bowl in Nassau, Buffalo versus UNC Charlotte. What do you got?
This is UNC Charlotte's very first bowl game. Everybody's going to be itching to watch some bowls. It'll be about 3 weeks since all the conference championships played out. I think the lights are going to be a little bit too bright. Got Buffalo in this one.
And the Browns have a lineman from UNC Charlotte. It might be Larry Ogunjobi. I was tempted to pick them, but I'm going with SUNY Buffalo as well. December 20th, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Frisco Bowl in Frisco, Texas, Utah State versus Kent State. My dear friend from Fort Lewis College, the AD there, Ken Stanley, went to Utah State as VP, Associate VP for Athletics. I'm going with Utah State. How about you, John?
Probably quarterback prospects in the draft, so I've got Utah State.
Okay, great. December 21st, Celebration Bowl. This is two HBCUs, Alcorn State versus North Carolina A&T. I'm going for Alcorn State. How about you, John?
I am too. They haven't been in this bowl in 4 years. They're going to have something to prove. I like Alcorn State.
Okay. December 21st, going back to Albuquerque, or as those of us who have lived there like to call it, Albucrazy, New Mexico. The New Mexico Bowl, I think we actually have a visual here for the, to give you, is that beautiful? Nothing like being in Albuquerque as the sun goes down in the desert. Central Michigan against San Diego State. I'd like to pull for the Midwestern team out of the MAC, but I think San Diego State is going to light up the field. How about you, John?
I got to go MAC and keep it Michigan here. I'm going for Central.
Okay. Still on the solstice, December 21st, Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida. Liberty versus Georgia Southern. I'm going with Georgia Southern. John?
I'm also going with Georgia Southern. They beat a ranked Appalachian State earlier this season. Also, it is the university that Mike Curry from the 2004 NBA champion Detroit Pistons. He's an alum for Georgia Southern, so I'll be pulling for them.
Very interesting factoid. Thank you for that. The Charabundi Boca Raton Bowl, which remarkably enough is in Boca Raton, Florida. So Florida Atlantic, I think, is in Boca Raton. So this is a home game for them. I got to go with them.
Yep, I'm going to go with them too. Pulling for the Owls.
Okay, December 21st at 5:30, the Camellia Bowl, Montgomery, Alabama. We were going to show you a picture of a camellia, but they don't grow within 500 miles of here, and I didn't download something and send it to Mike. All the same, I'm going with Arkansas State. How about you, John?
I'm going with Florida International. Shout out to my friend Maritza, FIU alum. It's going to be the Panthers.
Okay. December 21st, still, Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl, Boise State versus Washington. I'm going to go with Boise State and their turquoise AstroTurf, even though they're playing in Las Vegas.
I'd actually consider it more of a Honolulu blue AstroTurf. That said, I'm also pulling for Boise State. They've always got a chip on their shoulder come bowl season. I'm actually surprised they're not in the Pac-12. I did a double take when I saw this one. because I thought it was two Pac-12 teams, but I realized Boise State is still in the Mountain West. They're going to have something to prove. I think it's going to be the Honolulu Blue.
And the last game on the solstice, R&L Carriers Bowl in New Orleans, Appalachian State versus UAB. Since I was in the big house when Appalachian State upset Michigan years ago, I am not worthy to pick against Appalachian State. Therefore, I am picking Appalachian State.
Well, not only that, yeah, if you recall, Megan and I were in the student section. That was the first day of my sophomore year of college. One of the darkest days I've ever had, probably the darkest day I've ever had in the big house. That said, mad respect to the Mountaineers. It's going to be Appalachian State.
All right. December 23rd, Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. Bad Boy Mowers? I definitely want to party with those Cowboys. UCF versus Marshall. We are 40 miles away from Marshall in this studio. We are Marshall. I can't pick against Marshall. Here's looking out to Matthew McConaughey. John, what do you think?
Yeah, mad respect to Marshall, but I think it's going to be UCF. This game is in Tampa. UCF last year, if you recall, played LSU in a bowl game and only lost by one score. So I think at 9-3, they're going to take care of Marshall this year.
The SoFi Hawaii Bowl in Honolulu. I think since Hawaii has gone to adding the possessive apostrophe in their name, it's hard for me to pick against them. Do you have any football reasons for your pick, John?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think for the very same reasons, it's going to be Hawaii.
Okay. December 26th, Walk-Ons Independence Bowl. La Tech versus Miami. Got to go with University of Miami, Bernie Kosar's alma mater.
Yeah, even though this is the highest profile Conference USA game, I think it's going to be the U.
Okay. December 26th, Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, Pittsburgh versus Eastern Michigan. You know what? That's almost a home game for Eastern Michigan. They're 37 miles away in Ypsilanti. Got to go with EMU. Got
to pull Mac. Got to pull Ipsy. It's going to be Eastern.
Okay. Military Bowl presented by Northrop Grumman in Annapolis. UNC versus Temple. Mad respect to Dr. Ray Matura, who did this show 3 and 4 years ago, retiring after 48 and a half years in the sociology department here. Did his undergraduate work at Temple. So I'm pulling for Temple, solely for that reason.
I think North Carolina can no longer just be viewed as a basketball school. They've had a great last couple years. Got to remember, they were tied with Clemson 14-14 at halftime earlier this season, and Clemson is in the national semifinal against Ohio State. So I think it's going to be UNC.
All right, still on the 27th of December, New Era Pinstripe Bowl in New York City. Michigan State versus Wake Forest. Big Ten allegiance to Michigan State. Got to pull for them.
Yeah, I do too. Shout out to all my several dozen Spartan alum friends. This is definitely going to be the coldest of all the 41 bowls, being outdoors in the Bronx. I think the Spartans have an edge on that front. And I think that there's going to be a huge Spartan contingent in the New York area. So I think it's MSU.
All right. Later on the 27th, Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl in Houston. OK State versus Texas A&M. How can you bet against the Aggies? So I'm going for Texas A&M.
I'm going to bet against the Aggies purely because of Oklahoma State's head coach, Mike Gundy. We will all never forget from 11 or 12 years ago his famous "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech in a press conference. His paper was talking some smack about his players. I love that attitude. I love that loyalty. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
Okay. What is it that guy who's at Arizona now?
You play to win the game.
You play to win the game. What's that coach's name?
I forgot his name.
Ty Willingham?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I want to say Cunningham or something like that.
Okay.
But
that's not Ty Willingham. I think I have that wrong. Okay.
I'll pull it up.
All right. Where are we? We're in San Diego again, December 27th, 8 p.m. San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl. USC versus Iowa. I got to pull for the Hawkeyes, Coach Kirk Ferentz. Excellent defense. And Iowa does not accept money from movie stars to admit their students to a crew team. So I'm going to pull for Iowa over USC.
Interesting. I don't know what that reference was for. Maybe it's just USC. But yeah, I thought Michigan might have been in this bowl. But glad to see Iowa there. Got to pull Big Ten. It's going to be the Hawkeyes.
You bet. December 27th, late at night, the Cheez-It Bowl from Phoenix. Cheez-It can afford to support a bowl? That's amazing. Okay. Air Force versus Washington State. Well, since my 17-year-old Aiden, that's his first choice to go to the Air Force Academy, I got to go with Air Force. And I hope they're listening. We are supporting Air Force.
Fair enough. Fingers crossed for Aiden. I'm going to pull for Washington State here. I just think Washington State's seen a lot more tougher teams in the Pac-12, and I think they're going to be better prepared.
And speaking of fingers crossed, this just in from Minsk, Belarus. Anastasia Luzgina and Mikolai Otushka have said, "We will hold fingers for you, Aiden." Thank you, our Belarusian friends. You can send us an email. We'll explain that reference if you didn't pick up on it. December 8th, Camping World Bowl, Orlando, Florida. I don't know if on December 28th at noon I feel like camping outside, but maybe it wouldn't be that bad if it were in Orlando, Florida. This is Notre Dame versus Iowa State. Notre Dame thought they were going to be in a January 1 bowl game most of the year. Michigan abused them in Ann Arbor. They had a couple of bad losses. I don't have records here. Are they like 9-3, I think?
Yeah, something like that. I'm actually really surprised you have them winning this. Iowa State, I've either beat or lost to Iowa by 1 in the rivalry game in the beginning of September. They've looked good all season. I made the mistake last year of giving Notre Dame a lot of credit being an independent and having a strong strength of schedule when they went to face Clemson in the national semifinal, and they got embarrassed, I think 30-3. I think that their bowl woes are gonna continue. I've got Iowa State.
Well, I want Notre Dame to win, so the next time Michigan plays them, they're a better team. But that's
And do you
not
know
gonna
when the
happen
next time
for
we're gonna play them?
15 years or something.
Yeah. The people who are gonna be playing in that game are like 6 years old right now.
But you know what I'm going to predict? There's often cancellations that occur, and I'll bet 3 or 5 years from now, the same thing that happened the last 2 years with the home and home, that wasn't scheduled either. That fell in because other people canceled.
Interesting.
I don't think they're going to wait 15 years. Okay, you heard it first on Voice of Rio Grande, December 13th, Friday the 13th, 2019. Moving on to another noon game on the 28th, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, Arlington, Texas, Penn State versus Memphis. Actually, the young coach from Memphis, has he already accepted a better position? Or
I knew that he was in the coaching carousel, as SportsCenter likes to call it.
Yeah, well, I don't watch much ESPN anymore, but the one time I did watch last week, they said that young coach from Memphis, he's going to go to a premier team next year. So apparently he's done a real good job there. I still am going to pull for Penn State.
I am too. I'm actually surprised that Penn State's in this game, even though Wisconsin won the Big Ten East. I think Penn State's the second best team in the Big Ten this year. They look great in pretty much every game except for Ohio State. I don't see them losing this against Memphis, and I'm also really surprised to have a team as good as Penn State playing an AAC conference team. So I think that they're going to be upset, and I think that that's going to show on the gridiron.
All right. And then the first of 2 college football playoff semifinals. We've got number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Clemson, and Mike was able to find a picture of a noted child offender in the Columbus area. I think we have him up on the screen right now. I don't know why he's pointing at us. All the same, I'm going to pull for Ohio State. They have obliterated Michigan again on the football field only, but I'm going to pull for them because it'll make Michigan look better if Ohio State pummels other people equally well. John?
I've also got Ohio State. Got to give a shout out to my brother-in-law Paul here. We drove up from Cincinnati to Ann Arbor to watch the game on November 30th. It was a great time. Ohio State is they don't have any weaknesses. Both sides of the field. It goes to show they've 2 out of the 4 Heisman nominees are Ohio State Buckeyes. In Justin Fields and Chase Young. So I don't think either of them are going to win the Heisman. I think it's going to be Joe Burrow this year. I don't know if we have another segment for that, but that'll be my vote personally. But Ohio State is definitely the best team in the Big Ten, and I think that they're going to beat Clemson. I think that's the only matchup of of all the bowls where there's 2 undefeated teams, and I think that it's going to be Clemson being handed the loss.
Well, and I would add J.K. Dobbins to that list of Ohio State blue chippers because they're really an extraordinary team. Moving on to the other semifinal, LSU versus Oklahoma. I've watched 2 LSU games this year. They look unbeatable. They look just as unbeatable as Ohio State looks unbeatable. So I think those are by far the 2 best teams I've seen this year. So I was going to do my Ed Ogeron imitation, but I need to have 7 bourbons, and then I need to put rocks in my mouth. And when this ends at 3:30, I'm going back to the office, so I can't drink. So, but I will do my Ed Ogeron imitation at some point in the future. He's got an amazing Cajun accent, and more importantly, he is coaching that team. They look phenomenal. John?
They are the best team in the country. It's so much fun to watch LSU. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is him and Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin are the best running backs in all of Division I. I think Joe Burrow is going to definitely win this one easily against Oklahoma. I did like to see 4 different conferences represented in the college football playoff, but the SEC is far and away the deepest, and that's gonna come out on December 28th.
All right. December 30th, the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl in Dallas. 2 Compass schools, Western Kentucky versus Western Michigan. I'm pulling for Western Michigan with the shout out to my grad school friend, Scott Friesner.
Yeah, shout out to all my Western alum friends as well. Pulling for those guys.
Okay. December, it didn't print, but it's got to be the 30th. Franklin American Mortgage, at least on my sheet. Okay, thank you. Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl in Nashville, Mississippi State versus Louisville. I'm going to go with Ms. State. John?
Having a mother living in and carrying a Kentucky license these days, living in Alexandria, I've got to pull for Louisville. Went to Louisville for the first time with her this past summer. Great town. Highly recommend it. I think it's going to be the Cardinals.
All right. December 30th, Red Box Bowl in Santa Clara. UC Berkeley at Illinois versus Illinois. I know Illinois went 6-6 this year. They're bowl eligible, but this should be the Bears. UC.
Yeah, shout out to my roommate Grace, Cal alum. This is a home game for them. It's in the Bay.
Right.
Illinois had that huge upset of Wisconsin, but that was in mid-October, and I think both teams have made a lot of adjustments. Cal was ranked at the beginning of the season. They had a couple slips here and there. But, I'm think it's going to be the Bears in the Bay.
All right. Capital One Orange Bowl, Florida versus UVA. Oh, my gosh, I picked UVA? I did. It's a good thing Ray Mature is not on the show because his PhD's from Florida. John, you picked Florida.
I've got the Gators. This is another perfect example of SEC and their depth. I went to this bowl game when we played Florida State. Michigan played Florida State in December of 2016. And it was like a home game for Florida State, and they're up in Tallahassee. So I don't think it's going to make any difference that they're going to be coming down from Gainesville. It's going to be just like the Red Box Bowl. This is another example of another home game for a big power school.
Okay. December 31st, the Belk Bowl, Va Tech against Kentucky. I'm going with Virginia Tech.
I've got Kentucky for the same reasons that I pulled for Louisville. Building a little Kentucky pride after the last year or two. So and also you and I visited Lexington for the very first time this summer. That was fun.
That's
KU.
true. An abbreviated bourbon tour. It was great. December 31st, Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, Florida State versus Arizona State. I'm going with Florida State.
Yeah, me too. Florida State was supposed to be very good this year, if I remember correctly. So I think they're going to redeem themselves in the bowl game.
Okay, AutoZone Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee, Navy versus Kansas State. If Aiden doesn't get into the Air Force Academy, he wants to go to any of the other service academies. I can't pick against Navy. I hope people on the admissions committee are listening. John.
I got Kansas State. I didn't write it in my notes here, but they beat someone very big. I want to say it was Georgia or someone who just missed the college football playoff. So that's why I got Kansas State.
All right. Nova Home Loans Arizona Bowl in Tucson, Wyoming versus Georgia State. Wyoming, University of Wyoming is, interestingly enough, located in Wyoming. It's actually located in Laramie, Wyoming, which is only maybe 30 miles north of the Colorado border. Charming town. For that basis, and that basis only, I'm pulling for Wyoming. How about you, John?
Wyoming's a lot closer to Tucson than Georgia State, and that's all I got on this one.
Okay. Valero Alamo Bowl from San Antonio, Utah versus Texas. I am not going to pull against Texas feet away from the Alamo. But go ahead, John, justify your pick.
Although I completely agree with you, and I've used the last couple bowls, proximity to their school as an example as to why that team's going to win, I'm going to flip the script on this one, and that's because I think Utah was the best team in the Pac-12 this year. Out of all Power 5 conferences, the Pac-12 was the only conference to not send someone to the college football playoff. Utah beat Michigan in Ann Arbor, I want to say 10 years ago. I was at the game. It was at some point in my collegiate tenure.
Yeah, that was Rich Rod era.
They look great. They haven't been in the Pac-12 very long, but they're definitely the best team to come out of that conference. So I think that they're going to pull off an upset here in San Antonio.
Okay, and getting to New Year's Day, the VRBO Citrus Bowl, Michigan versus Alabama. And, okay, can I go on screen here? Okay, we have a wardrobe malfunction. Oh, there's the Michigan. There's the block out. Wardrobe malfunction. And I'm pulling for Michigan. John.
Yeah, I think that the X factor in this game is going to be our secondary and whether or not they show up. Lavert Hill, Josh Metellus, Josh Uche, who's actually declaring for the draft and will still play in the bowl game. Jordan Glasgow. They've all got to have career days. Alabama, Nick Saban, how could you possibly bet against him? And the reason that I can is, just all of our Michigan pride, and especially because we were supposed to go 10-2, 11-1 this year. We opened up the season ranked 5th in the country. We were looking for a college football playoff spot. I'd like to think, this late heading into bowl season with no real serious contenders opting to bow out of the bowl game for the NFL draft, we're going to be at full strength, and I really hope we can pull off this upset, but it's going to be super tough, and everybody's got to show up.
Well, Tua is not playing for Alabama, so that can only help us. It's a good defense, but giving up 62 points last year, 56 points this year to Ohio State, I'm a little worried, but go blue.
Yeah, no, I know. And also just to add to that, even though Tua's out, that backup Mac Jones has been really good as well.
That's true.
If you recall in the national championship 2 years ago, was it Tua that got hurt and then Jalen Hurts went in, or was Jalen hurt and Tua went in? I think it might have been the other way around.
Is that a Zen Buddhist Koan?
What's that?
No, go on. It was a bad joke.
Sorry, I didn't come through. But yeah, Jalen Hurts is in the national semifinal now with Oklahoma. So my point is there's no shortage of talent at the quarterback position at the University of Alabama. And, hopefully we'll be prepared.
Okay, the sponsors are pushing us, so we got to finish quickly. Outback Bowl in Tampa, Minnesota versus Auburn. Got to pull for Minnesota. Their best year in years.
Auburn beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl. 48-45. It was one of the most exciting games that I watched this season. If they can beat Alabama, then they can definitely beat Minnesota.
Okay. Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual in Pasadena. Got to pull for Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Taylor, outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is the best running back in college football. It was fun to watch him beat up on the rest of the Big Ten teams. It was not fun to watch him embarrass us in Madison in September. I mean, he's 5'11", 215, and he's just a wrecking ball. I really hope that he comes in and plays strong against Oregon. Oregon, like Utah, some of the best talent in Pac-12, so it's going to be a really good game.
Okay, later on the first, All-State Sugar Bowl, Georgia Baylor. I'm pulling for Baylor.
Yeah, I got to pull for Steve's medical school on this one. It's going to be Baylor.
Okay, January 2nd, Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl, which happens to be in Birmingham, Alabama. Boston College versus Cincinnati. Going for University of Cincinnati.
Yep, pulling for the Bearcats. Shout out to Mom and Meg and Paul.
Okay. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl from Jacksonville, Indiana, Tennessee. I'm going to pull for a very good Big Ten Indiana team.
Yeah, they look great this year. Michigan pulled away from them a little bit towards the end of the second half, but this was one of the best Indiana seasons I can remember in all the times that I've seen Indiana come to the Big House and have us whoop on them and have us go to Bloomington and do the same. Right. So I think it's going to be the Hoosiers.
Okay, famous Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise, Ohio U versus Nevada. We're pulling for Ohio U. Only 38 miles northeast of here is Athens.
Yep, Midwest represent.
Okay, Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth, Southern Mississippi and Tulane. I'll go with Southern Mississippi, Brett Favre's alma mater.
I'm pulling for Tulane. Shout out to Annie Walker. Congratulations to you and Jeremy Phillipson for tying the knot a couple months back. It's going to be Tulane in this one.
Lending Tree Bowl, Louisiana versus Miami of Ohio. Go with Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, Oxford's a great town. I visited on my way back from a triathlon trip sophomore year of college and had a great time. I love Oxford. Going for Miami of Ohio on this one.
And the College Football Playoff Championship, John and I both think Ohio State and LSU will make it from their semifinal games. I say Ohio State 34, LSU 31. John says
LSU 41, Ohio State 37. Sorry, Paul, but Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are too good. They're the best team in the country, and they're from the best conference in the country. And even though the Big Ten was pretty deep, the SEC's better. And, it's going to be an absolute shootout. I almost put 41-37 final double overtime. But I decided, you know what, I think they're going to score this many points in regulation. Both teams have such incredible explosive offenses, and they're far and away the best two teams in the country.
Well, it's interesting. We both think it's going to be a high-scoring game and a very close game. So, okay, thanks, John. 2 years in a row. Good work.
Thank you so much, and shout out to Mike Thompson for producing this. Thank you so much. Greetings from San Francisco. Happy holidays. Hope everybody has a wonderful last couple weeks of the year and the decade.
Okay, enjoy, folks.